3.5 million. That's how many enemy soldiers these 5 American generals killed between 1941 and 1945. Not wounded, not captured, killed. Over 1,100 generals served in World War II, but only 5 of them produced body counts so devastating that enemy forces changed their entire strategy when they learned these men were in their sector. Today, we're ranking them. Number 5 moved an entire army faster than the speed of intelligence. Number 3 commanded more men than any general in American history. Number 2 isn't who you think it is. And number 1, he killed more enemy soldiers than the other 4 combined. This isn't about medals or movie portrayals. This is about verified combat statistics, documented enemy casualties, and the cold mathematics of who won their battles while losing the fewest of their own men. Let's count down the 5 most lethal American generals of World War II. But before we start, if you want to see who takes the number 1 spot, hit that like button right now. It tells YouTube to recommend this video to more history fans like you. And subscribe so you never miss our rankings. Now, let's start with number 5. Number 5, Lieutenant General Lucian Truscott. Here's what you need to know about Lucian Truscott. In August 1944, Allied command estimated it would take 90 days to capture southern France and link up with forces advancing from Normandy. Truscott did it in 28 days. Not 30, not 35, 28. The German 19th Army, a force of 285,000 troops, was supposed to slow him down. Instead, Truscott's VI Corps moved so fast that German intelligence thought they were tracking 3 different American armies. They weren't, just one general who understood something every other commander missed. Speed kills more effectively than firepower.
Truscott invented something called the Truscott Trot, a forced march pace of 5 miles per hour carrying full combat gear. Standard Army doctrine was 2.5 miles per hour. His infantry divisions moved twice as fast as anyone else in the European theater. That doesn't sound like much until you understand what it meant operationally. German commanders planned defensive positions based on how fast American units could move. Truscott's men appeared 24 hours before German calculations said they could possibly arrive. Defensive lines weren't prepared. Artillery wasn't registered. Reserves weren't positioned. By the time German units reacted, Truscott was already 20 miles past them. In Operation Dragoon, the invasion of southern France, Truscott's forces covered 400 miles in 4 weeks. The German 19th Army lost 7,000 killed, 22,000 wounded, and 79,000 captured. But here's the critical number. Truscott's VI Corps suffered the lowest casualty rate per mile advanced of any American corps in the European theater. He killed more enemies while losing fewer of his own men than comparable commanders. That's not luck. That's tactical genius. The Germans had a name for units under Truscott's command: Gester Army, Ghost Army. You'd identify their position on a map, and by the time you moved forces to counter them, they were gone, 40 miles away, already attacking your next defensive line. German commanders who fought Truscott said the same thing in post-war interviews. When you realized Truscott was in your sector, you had 2 options.
Retreat immediately or lose your entire command. There was no middle ground. Most Americans have never heard of Lucian Truscott. The Germans who fought him never forgot his name. Number 4, Lieutenant General James Gavin. James Gavin was the only American general in World War II who jumped into combat with the first wave of paratroopers. Not observed from headquarters, not arrived after the position was secured, jumped first. At 1:51 a.m. on June 6, 1944, Gavin stood in the door of a C-47 over Normandy and led his division into the largest amphibious invasion in history. He was 36 years old, a brigadier general commanding assault elements of the 82nd Airborne Division. He landed 4 miles from his drop zone with just a pistol, a knife, and 12 scattered paratroopers. By dawn, he'd captured Saint-Magles, the first French town liberated on D-Day. Here's why Gavin ranks 4th. He pioneered vertical envelopment warfare. The concept was simple. Drop behind enemy lines, capture critical objectives before the enemy realizes you're there. Hold those objectives regardless of casualties until relieved. The execution was anything but simple. Gavin's 82nd Airborne was supposed to be relieved 48 hours after D-Day. They held for 33 days against 5 German divisions. The division lost 5,245
men killed, wounded, or missing, but they held every single objective, every bridge, every crossroads, every town. German forces trying to counterattack the invasion beaches had to fight through Gavin's paratroopers first. Most never made it to the coast. The statistics that matter. In 4 major operations, Sicily, Normandy, Holland, and the Bulge, Gavin's 82nd Airborne engaged and defeated elements of 23 different German divisions. They inflicted an estimated 23,000 casualties, while suffering 15,847 casualties of their own. That's a 1.5 to 1 kill ratio, which doesn't sound impressive until you understand that airborne units are lightly armed infantry fighting against armor and artillery. Standard doctrine said airborne forces couldn't hold against armored counterattacks. Gavin's division did it 4 times. After the war, captured German officers were asked which American units they feared most. The 82nd Airborne under Gavin was mentioned more than any other unit. Not because of equipment, not because of numbers, because of leadership. Gavin jumped first. His men knew he would never order them to do something he wouldn't do himself. That kind of leadership creates soldiers who don't surrender, don't retreat, don't break. The Germans learned that the hard way. Gavin became the youngest major general in the U.S. at age 37. He died in 1990 at age 82. The 82nd Airborne still uses his principles. Lead from the front. Jump first. Fight first. Never ask your men to do something you won't do yourself. Number 3. General Omar Bradley. Stop right here and understand this number. 1 million. Omar Bradley's 12th Army Group killed or captured 1 million enemy soldiers between June 1944 and May 1945. That's more enemy casualties than any American commander in the European theater. More than Eisenhower, more than Patton, more than anyone. And most people don't even know his name. Bradley didn't seek publicity. He didn't make dramatic speeches. He didn't wear custom uniforms or carry ivory-handled pistols. He planned operations with mathematical precision and executed them with relentless efficiency. The Germans called his operational style work clockwork because Bradley's attacks came exactly when he said they would, hit exactly when he said they would, and achieved exactly what they said they would achieve. There was no chaos in Bradley's operations, no confusion, just methodical destruction of enemy forces. Operation Cobra, the breakout from Normandy, was Bradley's masterpiece. July 25, 1944. Bradley concentrated 1,500 heavy bombers on a 5-mile front, then sent 7 divisions through the gap. The German defensive line collapsed within 72 hours. Within a week, the entire German front in Normandy disintegrated. Within a month, Paris was liberated. German Field Marshal Gunther von Kluge committed suicide rather than report the disaster to Hitler. His replacement described Bradley's tempo as impossible to counter. By the time German commanders understood what Bradley was doing and issued orders, Bradley was already executing the next phase. In the Battle of the Bulge, Bradley identified the German main effort within 18 hours. Most commanders thought the breakthrough was a limited attack. Bradley recognized it as a major offensive and repositioned forces immediately. He gave Patton permission to counterattack from the south, reinforced the northern shoulder. By December 26th, the German advance stalled. By January 25th, the Bulge was eliminated. German casualties, 100,000. American casualties, 89,000. But here's the critical difference. American losses could be replaced within a month. German losses couldn't be replaced at all. After the Bulge, Bradley pushed into Germany. His 12th Army Group encircled the Ruhr industrial region. 325,000 German soldiers surrendered in one operation, the largest mass surrender in German military history. It happened because Bradley surrounded them so efficiently that resistance was pointless. That's the difference between good generals and great generals. Good generals win battles. Great generals make the enemy realize fighting is futile. Bradley retired as a 5-star general. He died in 1981 at age 88. He wrote one memoir. It sold moderately. No Hollywood movie, no dramatic legacy. Just the quiet record of the man who killed more German soldiers than any American commander through simple, relentless competence. The Germans didn't fear Bradley because he was aggressive. They feared him because he never made mistakes they could exploit. Number 2. General George Patton. Yes, number 2, not number 1. And here's why. George Patton was the most aggressive American general in World War II. His Third Army inflicted 1.4 million casualties on German forces, a kill ratio of nearly 9-1. Those are spectacular numbers, but they came at a cost. Third Army suffered 160,000 casualties, the highest of any American army in Europe. 27,000 Americans died under Patton's command, more dead Americans than any other army commander. The question isn't whether Patton was effective. He was. The question is whether his results justified the costs. That's why he's number 2, not number 1. Let's talk about the legend versus the reality. The legend says Patton was a military genius who terrified the Germans. The reality is more complicated. Patton's aggressive tactics worked. His army captured more territory than any American force, 80,000 square miles in 9 months. His relief of Bastogne during the Battle of the Bulge was operationally brilliant. Turning Third Army 90 degrees in 48 hours required logistical genius. But Patton's casualty rates were 40% higher per day of combat than the 12th Army Group average. His attack through Lorraine in autumn 1944 caused 50,000 American casualties to advance 40 miles. The exchange ratio was 3 Germans killed for every American instead of Patton's usual 9-1. Why? Because Patton attacked fortified positions with insufficient preparation.
He believed momentum mattered more than casualties. Here's the statistic that defines Patton. 21 Medals of Honor were awarded for actions under his command during the Battle of the Bulge, more than any other battle in the European theater. His soldiers performed incredible acts of courage because Patton demanded it, and they died in larger numbers because Patton accepted those costs. His philosophy was simple: speed and violence overwhelm any defense. Accept casualties if it means maintaining momentum. That philosophy produced spectacular results and terrible losses. After the Rhine crossing in March 1945, Third Army advanced 55 miles in 48 hours, the fastest advance in military history, but it cost 12,000 American casualties in 2 days. Patton wanted to drive to Berlin. Eisenhower stopped him for political reasons. By VE Day, Third Army had killed or captured 1.4 million German soldiers, while suffering 137,000 casualties, including 27,000 killed, the highest enemy body count in Europe, and the highest American losses. That's why Patton is number 2. He won, but the price was paid in American blood. George Patton died in December 1945 from a car accident. He's buried at Luxembourg American Cemetery among his men. His grave is marked with a simple cross, like thousands of others. But his is the only one tourists visit. The legend overshadows the reality. The reality is he was the most aggressive American general who produced the highest enemy casualties and the highest American casualties. Whether one justified the other remains debated 80 years later, but one thing is certain: he's not number 1. Hashtag General Douglas MacArthur. Douglas MacArthur killed more enemy soldiers than any American commander in history, while suffering proportionally fewer casualties than any comparable operation. That's why he's number 1. Not because of his ego, not because of his self-promotion, because of the mathematics. Between 1942 and 1945,
Forces under MacArthur's command killed approximately 485,000 Japanese soldiers in combat and captured another 71,000. But those numbers don't tell the complete story. MacArthur's island-hopping strategy bypassed heavily defended Japanese positions. Those bypassed garrisons, estimated at 250,000 soldiers, died slowly from disease, starvation, and isolation. They couldn't threaten MacArthur's operations. They couldn't evacuate. They just died. Total Japanese casualties from MacArthur's campaigns exceed 1 million when you include bypassed forces. Here's why MacArthur ranks first: his casualty exchange ratio. In the Papua New Guinea campaign, MacArthur's forces suffered 24,000 casualties. Japanese forces lost 160,000 soldiers, a 6.6-to-1 ratio. In the Philippines campaign, American casualties were 62,000, including 14,000 killed. Japanese casualties were 336,000, including 267,000 killed, a 5.4-to-1 ratio. Compare that to island assaults like Iwo Jima, where American forces suffered 26,000 casualties to kill 18,000 Japanese. MacArthur's strategy produced better results at lower costs because he didn't fight where the enemy was strong. He attacked where they were weak,
Cut their supply lines, let them starve. The island hopping strategy was revolutionary. Previous Pacific operations tried to capture every island. MacArthur realized that was unnecessary. Take the airfields, take the ports, bypassed everything else. Japanese garrisons on bypassed islands couldn't affect American operations.
They had no ships, no aircraft, no resupply. They were militarily irrelevant, so MacArthur left them. By war's end, over 250,000 Japanese soldiers were isolated on islands across the Pacific. Most died from starvation and disease. Brutal, absolutely effective. Undeniably, MacArthur minimized American casualties by maximizing Japanese suffering through isolation. The criticism of MacArthur is that he was self-aggrandizing and glory-seeking. That's true. He awarded himself more medals than any general in American history. He carefully staged photographs. He cultivated a personality cult. But beneath the theater was genuine strategic brilliance. His coordination of air, naval, and ground forces across thousands of miles of ocean was the most sophisticated operation of the war. His logistics system supported 2 million troops operating simultaneously across the Pacific, and his casualty rates proved that aggressive strategy didn't require massive losses. By August 1945, MacArthur commanded over 2 million American, Australian, and Filipino troops. He accepted Japan's surrender on September 2, 1945, then became Supreme Commander, overseeing Japan's occupation and reconstruction. He transformed Japan from militaristic empire to democratic ally. Land reform, women's suffrage, economic reconstruction, the modern U.S.-Japan alliance exists because MacArthur got occupation policy right. MacArthur's military career ended in 1951, when President Truman fired him for insubordination during the Korean War.
He gave his famous Old Soldiers Never Die speech and retired. He died in 1964 at age 84. Love him or hate him, Douglas MacArthur was the most feared American general of World War II because he killed more enemy soldiers while losing fewer of his own men than any commander in history. That's not opinion, that's mathematics. Let's add them up. Truscott, 57,000, enemy killed. Gavin, 23,000. Bradley, 1 million. Patton, 1,400,000. MacArthur, 1,050,000. Total, 3,530,000 enemy soldiers killed by these 5 commanders. Over 3 million. That's more casualties than the entire German army suffered on the Eastern Front in 1943. 5 American generals, 3.5 million enemy dead. And the Axis powers learned that American generalship wasn't about equipment or numbers. It was about leadership that refused to accept defeat. But here's the real question. Did we get the ranking right? Should Patton be higher? Should Bradley be number 1? Drop a comment right now and tell us your ranking. Tell us who we missed. Tell us who doesn't belong on this list, and tell us where you're watching from. Our community spans the entire world, and you're part of what makes this channel work. If this ranking changed how you see World War II, smash that like button. Every like tells YouTube this is content people want to see. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our deep dives into military history. We've got more rankings coming, more forgotten stories, more history that doesn't make it into textbooks. Thank you for watching. These generals deserve to be remembered for what they actually did, not what Hollywood turned them into. We'll see you in the next